welcome to the Movieception Show. My name is Fariba, and now that we're in the new year, that means we got a couple new movies coming out. And for this video, I want to give my movie review on M3GAN. And before I go right down to it, one of the things I do want to start doing more often for this channel is to do more of these movie reviews. I know last year I did a couple, but not to the level that I would have expected myself to have, published on the channel. And I felt like one of the things I want to do to improve upon my content is to do more of the things like, being more consistent with my uploads for movie reviews and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I'm going to be doing starting this new year. And hopefully I'll be able to start, churning in more of my movie reviews and maybe even, doing them after I've actually watched the movie, like right after I've seen the movie. So that's something I want to do moving forward with this channel. And I mean, what better way to do my first review of 2023 than to do it on M3GAN. So yeah, for this film, for those who may or may have not seen my most anticipated video, if you haven't, quickly check it out. But in that video, I did list out my top 10 films. I did not list M3GAN in my top 10, but I did give a mention about it because just before going into this film, right? I mean, this was the first film that came out, of this year. And just before that, the trailers itself was really, really intriguing, right? For me, I didn't even watch the trailer at an instant, like when it was first uploaded on, on the internet. I didn't even know about this movie until I started to see, some of the memes that popped up on Twitter, especially the one scene where she is dancing in the hallway, very eerily, very creepy. I mean, every time I watch it, it's just so unusual and bizarre. And I think after that, I watched the trailers, and since then, I've just been like, I've been interested on this film. And then once the second trailer dropped, I started to be even more, interested in the film. And it's just like, okay, well, going into it, like there was definitely this like sensation, this viral sensation of who M3GAN is, what these trailers are showing, what this movie is going to be about, right? And I think that one of the things that makes the trailer really stick out is that because it is sort of a ridiculous concept for a horror type of film, it caught a lot of our attention. It caught my attention, certainly. So that's why I listed as one of at least like a honorable film that I hope to watch, even though it wasn't my top 10. It was something that I had an interest in. And oh boy, can I just say that watching M3GAN was just fun, entertaining. It was just a glorious experience watching M3GAN on the big screen. I took my friend M3GAN, not M3GAN, I took my friend Marilyn to go see this film. For those who do not know her, she's actually in that very first video in my channel. And hasn't really appeared on this channel since. But I do go watch the movies with her, and I took her to go see M3GAN because she's a huge horror fan. I myself am not a big horror, fanatic, but I do watch on occasion. I do want to say that lately some of the horror films have definitely been amping it up, and I feel like this movie has really just, exceeded expectations. For one thing, this, like, I know for a fact that this is supposed to be a horror film, right? It has that killer doll sort of concept that we get from films like Child's Play and Annabelle. That was something I was really expecting this film to be focused on. But I think one of the things that really, I think made this concept such a different type of experience, different type of turn, is that not only are we dealing with like an android type of toy, but it's really kind of getting up to the times of like, we are now becoming a much more advanced world when it comes to technology, right? And androids have been a big thing. Like when you think about this film, you're thinking about things like Terminator, and this is kind of like more of a more mellow version of it with like, a kid doll, but still having more of those killer doll, sort of tropes that we see in this film, right? And I think with this one, it doesn't, I think with this one, it definitely just uplifts everything that we know about horror films, or at least with the killer doll genre, right? For this film, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, just to watch M3GAN, as creepy and weird and bizarre she is, I think there wasn't like a single moment that I was not laughing, that I was not, edge of my seat. It was such an experience that I think everyone in my theater could not stop laughing, but also like feeling really creepy whenever they do see M3GAN on the big screen, because she does put such a huge impact on what's going on throughout the film. And I think one of the things that really works is because of Akela Cooper's writing, the way that she really just narrates who M3GAN is, giving us this whole psyche of her and just understanding her self-awareness as well as her obsession, and not just optimizing her program, but also trying to get really close to Katie, the young girl who she is a companion to. Like, I think every moment, like, there wasn't a scene where I just was like, I was like, what the hell, like, it didn't seem off-putting, it didn't seem out of place. Everything about M3GAN was just amazing. Like, to this day, like right now, like after like I actually saw this on Thursday, but to this day, right, I cannot stop talking about M3GAN because the experience itself was just amazing. Again, just to see M3GAN become such a sensationalized icon, I guess you can say, because of the way that she really just amps her up in this film, whether it be some of the horrific things that she does or some of the more bizarre, weirdly friendly things that she does as her own program does. This film just had everything, and I really enjoy. Like, this is basically the definition of what we see is campy horror. Like, everything that we know about campy horror, it really does a great job in this film. Like, they like the way that the way that the film is directed, it really amps up just the levels of what we know of campy horror. Like, this movie really exceeded everything that we want about camp horror, because everything about it was just funny. Things, yeah, they were ridiculous. I think there were so many ridiculous moments, but that's the whole point, right? I mean, this is supposed to be a camp horror, and yet, considering how creepy M3GAN is, she always, puts in like 110% on the big screen with her silliness, ridiculousness, and even then, like, even with some of the more exaggeration that we do see out of her, there have been some really, chilling moments throughout the film. Like, it won't be at the level of a horror film, which I'll talk more in a second, but it wasn't at a, what we would typically see in a horror film, but but the thing is that just the level of who we see as M3GAN in this film, it just really exceeds expectations. And yeah, one of the things I will address for sure is just kind of how it goes into the angle of horror, because that's probably what a lot of people have been talking about. Like, it's exactly a horror film. I mean, in a sense, it does, just because it does have its, concepts like the killer doll situation, or the fact that, you have a doll that's going on a, murderous run. That kind of gives a bit more of that horror-esque feel to it. But it is more of a camp sort of version. I think I would probably say it would definitely be more of a thriller anyways, just because the whole aspect of this film is just to understand, who M3GAN is, what she's doing. It doesn't have the jump scares, which I feel like that's what a lot of people are more aware of what horror is supposed to be. Like, the way that Conjuring is supposed to be, like that type of horror. Whereas in this one, we're talking more like, in a sense of what Child's Play. I mean, Child's Play is a horror film as well, but this one I feel like was definitely more of a thriller-esque film. I mean, for one thing, it is PG-13, so it isn't as gory, it isn't as, bloody that we see in a lot of horror films, right? I think that in that case, yeah, it's kind of hard to really define on whether or not this is a horror film or, a definitive horror film. But that's why I keep on saying campy horror, because this is more of a campy horror, or you can even say sci-fi thriller. I think both of those definitions would be kind of the way to define what this movie is, than just saying, oh, this is a straight up horror film, when it's not really the most straight up horror film. Now, having said that, like, now that I mentioned about PG-13, yeah, a lot of people were kind of complaining about the fact that this movie is not a PG-13 film, but honestly, I think that the fact that it was PG-13, it was a lot more effective for what it was doing. Just for one thing that I do want to address is, this film does have a bit more of a subtlety to it. It's not a straight up horror, because what makes this movie so unique is that there's something deeper into the message of what's going on in this world that we see through M3GAN, right? Because for one thing, the reason why this doll was made is to, be a companion to the young kid Katie, because she had lost her parents and she's now under the guardianship of her aunt. And one of the things that this movie really does an incredible job of is kind of going into and diving into just the understanding of human behavior, things like, bonding, attachment, in Megan's case, self-awareness, her way of, trying to get this, earn her trust from Katie. This is kind of a big thing about this film that is really just the most under, pinning theme of what's going on in this film. Like, there's a deeper meaning into what's going on in just what this whole film is trying to portray. It's not just, a killer doll going on a murderous loose, right? It's showing more of like, okay, we're dealing with a kid who is, sad. Both her parents are dead, and now she needs someone to, trust. And this was a big part of the movie. Really, like, it doesn't go too depth into it, but it is there. Like, it does explain that, hey, by the way, this film is a bit more, deep into kind of what it's trying to portray than just being a killer doll film. And that is, well, yeah, we're talking about things like attachment. We're talking things about, bonding. We're talking things about, human behavior, how people are maturing, things like that. And once you really start to see those, those messages, the way that this movie really shows these deep meanings, that it makes you appreciate more of like, okay, this isn't just a typical, horror, jump scare sort of film that, has to have all that bloodiness, goriness, and all that sort of stuff. Because of the fact that it doesn't have all that bloodiness, goriness, all that sort of stuff, and it doesn't have the more typical, horror jump scares, it allows the story itself to be a bit more subtle, trying to be a bit more thematic on like what the message is in terms of what the story is trying to say. And that is, yeah, this is about human behavior, this is about bonding. And I think that this is a very important case. Like, I think that when you start looking into that, as someone who has studied psychology, it gives you a deeper understanding of developmental psychology, understanding how a child grows, what is necessary for a child to mature, what a parent needs to do on their end to really, help, someone that they're looking after to grow, mature, and, and understanding kind of the surroundings around that. And I feel like this is a movie that really kind of deeps into some more the subtleties, the nuance of, child psychology, child development, and all that sort of stuff that a lot of people may or may have not missed. For those who have not missed it, like, that's probably one of the things that made this movie so intriguing. And yet, on top of that, you do have, again, the killer dolls tropes and all that sort of stuff that still makes it really effective in terms of what's happening in this film. But yeah, honestly, I had a blast watching M3GAN. M3GAN was just a lot of fun. Again, I love the subtleties. I love the fact that there was a pretty good level of humor, as well as just, some of the thriller aspects to it. This is a film that, even not just that, but I think M3GAN is a sensation. I think having seen this film, like, I've never felt like I've enjoyed watching a particular character on the big screen the way that I saw this android M3GAN, the way that she really just stole the show. Like, I think that this is why she is trending online, why she is really just blowing out of the waters. I've been seeing the box office. Like, I mean, this is a film that's really exceeding expectations for the fact that it's only been the first week of 2023, and it's already doing such an amazing job at the box office. And not just that, but critically as well, with the, reviews and all that sort of thing. But yeah, and for me, even as an audience, I thoroughly enjoy this film. Yeah, a lot of people who are a bit more diehard horror fans may not enjoy the fact that it doesn't have the typical horror stuff like the jump scares, the bloodiness, the goriness. And who knows? I mean, there's been news about a potential of an unrated version coming out. So if that's going to be the case, that's going to be an interesting bit. But aside from that, I think that for what it was, I think the way that, the final product that we did get, I think at the end of the day, that was probably the best thing that they were able to really just showcase M3GAN's story. Again, just showing the subtleties, trying to give a deeper meaning about the story than just being a typical horror, mesh that has to be. Like, there's something more to it than just being a horror film. It has the campiness, it has the horror, it has the ridiculousness, and I think that that's what made this film so much fun. And again, like, for this film and for the character itself, I think that just a way to really start off 2023. It's just been a blast of itself. And again, I love this film. If you have not seen it, I highly, highly recommend it. I mean, honestly, you should be going to the theaters right now to go see M3GAN, especially if you're someone who, if you're not someone who is who is able to, take in some of the more typical horror stuff, like the bloody and goriness, all that sort of stuff. If you can't take that in, at least for the good news is that this is a film that will definitely cater to you. I think, again, in my theater, everyone was laughing. I was laughing. My friend was laughing. The people next to me were laughing. Everyone was enjoying this film. Like, again, the way that it really just exceeded expectations. If there's anything that I really would say was maybe a flaw, is that maybe kind of the final act may have gone a bit too quickly and trying to just, end things off. Like, again, with the whole development of, like, yeah, we have M3GAN, she's a killer doll, she's somebody who has been a bad influence for Katie, but there's also this deeper meaning behind bonding, understanding how that works, and then trying to, have two people to really just, understand death, and then, and trying to get through and find acceptance for it. I think that worked out fine. I think, again, it's just the way it kind of ends up things. It does kind of end pretty quick, and I felt like maybe another 5 minutes would have helped to really just wrap things up. But that being said, again, M3GAN's sensation. I just love this film. I totally recommend it if you have not seen it, and what a way to really start 2023. So yeah, that's all I have to say about M3GAN. Let me know what you have to say. Have you seen M3GAN? If you have not, please go to the theaters right now and go see M3GAN. And if you have, what are your thoughts? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? What were the things that you did enjoy? Did you like the campiness of the film, or did you not like it because it wasn't really what you expected it to be? As a horror, advertised as a horror film. What do you have to say about the movie itself? Do you want to see more sequels? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe.